Hi, I'm Robin, English teacher with Core Languages, and today I'm back at Riverfront Park in North Charleston, South Carolina. If you look behind me, past the gigantic butterfly, you might see some dark and ominous clouds. It looks like it will rain today. Thunderstorms are in the forecast, but luckily, I brought my umbrella. But I don't always remember to bring my umbrella. Have you been caught in the rain and thought to yourself, I should have brought my umbrella, or I could have brought my umbrella? When you make sentences with could have brought or should have brought, you're using a modal verb in the past tense. But we need to understand the formula with which to create these sentences. For example, it would be incorrect to say, I could have bring, or I could had brought. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make sentences with modal verbs in the past tense. So the next time you want to tell someone what you could have done or should have done, you can formulate a perfect English sentence.
Modal verbs in the past tense. To form the simple past using modal verbs, we use have and the past participle. Modal verbs can also be contracted with have, for example, could've or would've. The following modal verbs are used to express ability, speculation, deduction, possibility or impossibility, and degrees of certainty. Would. The modal verb would is used to express a desire or a want, but we also use it to make hypothetical statements, known as the third conditional. The modal verb should is used to express regret or speculation, but we can also use it to give someone advice. Could is used to express ability, but also uncertainty, or the possibility or the impossibility. Must is used to express a strong certainty, or when we deduce that something is the case. There are three main rules to remember when using modal verbs in the simple past. All forms are identical and no ending is added. This is the same rule for the simple present. We do not change the conjugation for he, she, or it. I must have, you must have, and she must have. It is not correct to say she musts have or she must has. Modals in the simple past are followed by have and a past participle. For example, he could have done it. It would be incorrect to say he could have do it or he could have to do it, and it would also be incorrect to say he could has done it. It is always have. To negate modal verbs in the simple past, we simply add not. For example, you could not. We can also use the contracted form. For example, you couldn't have. But I cannot say you do not could. We use the modal verb would to express a strong desire or a want, or when we want to talk about things that we want to do or wanted to do but didn't do. We also use would for third conditional sentences when we make hypothetical statements. The word order is subject, modal verb, have, followed by the past participle and the rest of the sentence. For example, I would have bought your bike, but I had no money. I could also say, I wanted to buy your bike, but I had no money. Would is the modal verb, and bought is the past participle of the verb to buy. We would have made dinner for you. Would is the modal verb, made is the past participle of to make. I could also say, We wanted to make dinner for you, but we didn't. If I had won the lottery, I would have bought a house in Malibu. This is a hypothetical statement. I did not win the lottery and I did not buy a house in Malibu. We use the modal verb should in the simple past to express that something was a good idea or to give someone advice, but it wasn't done. I can also use should to express regret or to make a speculation. The word order is the same. Subject, modal verb, have, followed by the past participle and the rest of the sentence. For example, we should have studied for the test. This sentence expresses regret. We should have studied, but we didn't study. You should have gotten into shape before the race. This sentence is giving advice. You should have gotten into shape, but you didn't. She should have been here by now. This sentence is making a speculation. She should have been here by now, but she isn't here. We use the modal verb could in the simple past to talk about things that we are uncertain about, but that are still possible. We also use it to express ability, or if something is possible or impossible. Be careful. Could also means the same as may and might in the past tense. For example, I could go is the same as I may or I might go. The word order is the same. Subject, modal verb, have, followed by the past participle and the rest of the sentence. For example, he could have ridden his bike here. This sentence expresses both an uncertainty and a possibility. He could have ridden his bike here, but we don't know if he did, means that we are uncertain about whether or not he rode his bike here. But he could have ridden his bike here, but didn't, expresses that it would have been possible for him to ride his bike, but he didn't. You could not have driven here. This sentence expresses that it was impossible for you to drive here. You could have borrowed my car. This sentence expresses that it was a possibility or an ability for you to borrow my car. It is important to note that when you are sure that something did not happen in the past, you can also use can't have and the past participle to express this certainty. For example, I can't have left my keys at home because I drove here. You are certain that you didn't forget your keys, so you can say, I can't have left. We use the modal verb must in the simple past to express either a strong certainty or a deduction. The word order is the same: subject, modal verb, have, the past participle, and the rest of the sentence. For example, he must have gone home. This sentence means that we don't know if he did, but we assume or we deduce that this is what he did. He must not have fed our dog. This means that we assume with strong certainty that he did not feed our dog. Let's read the following sentences and try to determine whether they are correct or incorrect. Keep the word order in mind. He must have left work early. This sentence is correct. He couldn't fixed the problem. This sentence is incorrect. The correct sentence would be, He couldn't have fixed the problem. She can't have stayed home because I just saw her. This sentence is correct. Shouldn't you have at least tried? This sentence is correct. She should have studied. This sentence is incorrect. The correct sentence would be, she should have studied or she should have studied. I would have helped you, but you didn't call me. This sentence is correct. Now look at this example and choose the correct modal verb. I could have been famous, but I wasn't disciplined enough. Or I must have been famous, but I wasn't disciplined enough. Technically speaking, both sentences are grammatically correct, but the only sentence that really makes sense is, I could have been famous, but I wasn't disciplined enough. And how about this example? We must have picked you up, or we would have picked you up at the train station, but you didn't ask us to. The correct sentence would be, we would have picked you up at the train station, but you didn't ask us to. And how about this sentence? Try to remember the correct word order or sentence formula. They should have finished with renovations by now, or they would have finished with renovations by now. The correct sentence is, they should have finished with renovations by now. And how about this example? You could have been really sick. I haven't seen you in weeks. Or, you must have been really sick. I haven't seen you in weeks. Both options are possible. I could say, you must have been really sick. I haven't seen you in a week. This sentence expresses that we are deducing that the other person has been sick because we haven't seen them. But I could also say, you could have been really sick. I haven't seen you in weeks. This sentence expresses that it's a possibility that the other person was sick, but we don't know because we haven't seen them in weeks.
Thank you for watching. I hope you now have a better understanding of how to use modal verbs in the past tense. As always, if you have more questions, feel free to comment, or if you're interested in joining one of our courses with a live instructor, feel free to message us directly. I look forward to seeing you in our next class.